please welcome to the stage the mayor of Santa Fe, New Mexico, Javier Gonzales.
Good afternoon, everybody. You guys enjoying a good time here in Washington and having a good time interacting with one another? It's a little quiet, Aisha. You guys enjoying yourselves? All right. My name is Javier Gonzales. I have the incredible pleasure of being mayor of the city of Santa Fe, and I am so thankful for the privilege to be able to announce our next speaker, Victory Institute's fearless leader, Aisha Moodie-Mills. Aisha is among the smartest and the most committed activists in our movement today. And she has a bold and broad vision for LGBT equality. As president and CEO of the Victory Institute, Aisha leads a passionate team committed to developing a diverse pipeline of LGBT leaders who will lead the fight for equality across the country. She understands the power of representation and is leading the charge in uniting and expanding LGBT leadership nationwide. And let me share something with you. Before Election Day, most of us thought Hillary Clinton would be our next president. And this conference was largely focused on making a Clinton administration the most LGBT inclusive in history. And then reality struck, and Donald Trump was elected president. While most of us were still wallowing in our sorrow, Aisha saw through a fog and realized that this International LGBT Leaders Conference must pivot, that it had the potential to unify and better our movement for equality in perilous times. Her vision, her foresight, is why yesterday we held the largest closed-door strategy session of LGBT elected officials in history. It is why this conference is now about using the collective power of LGBT elected officials and leaders to protect our rights and fight back against hateful efforts of the next administration. Her vision is why Victory Institute is positioned to be one of the most important players in our movement for equality in the coming months and years. Now, I love the Victory Institute, and I'm also proud to be a 2016 Victory Institute Bonet Leaders Fellow. Through the fellowship, I had the privilege of attending a 3-week intensive executive training program at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, where we honed our leadership skills and learned how to be more effective leaders for our communities. This program, like other Victory Institute programs, is helping elected officials be the fighters that we need to fight in the coming years. And I know well that LGBT leaders and LGBT representation, that it matters. And to quote Aisha herself, when we're not at the table, we're on the menu. And I need to say, coming from New Mexico, I've seen firsthand how important it is to be at the table. As a mayor, I've worked hard to create an inclusive city that is for everybody, where full participation matters. And one of my first acts as mayor was to propose a gender-neutral bathroom ordinance, which I'm proud went into effect very quickly. I also had the opportunity to condemn the Republican legislature whenever they would promote legislative items that promoted hate. And most recently, had the opportunity to talk about the values of Santa Fe in defending our community as being a sanctuary city, and standing up to the Trump efforts to try and penalize Trump cities as being places that are welcoming people from all over. Now, as Trump stacks his administration, with anti-LGBT activists, some who even endorse conversion therapy, Aisha and Victory Institute's work will become more important than any time in recent history. We need more people like Senator Tammy Baldwin. We need more people like Representative Sean Patrick Maloney. And we need to support Aisha while she's in office, leading us in positions of power. We as a movement need a cohesive plan of attack, and I'm heartened by the possibilities of what we can accomplish during the rest of this conference. So, Aisha, thank you for your leadership. My brothers and sisters, please give it up for our incredible leader, Ms. Aisha Moodie-Mills.
Hey, good afternoon. Oh my goodness, y'all can do better than that. Good afternoon. There are clearly not a lot of people from the Black church in here. It's called call and response. Thank you so much, Mayor Gonzales, for that fabulous introduction. And more importantly, thank you for all of your leadership and your efforts down in Santa Fe. So, friends, it's been exactly 1 month since the election, and I know it feels like a lifetime ago. Before the results came in, like the mayor said, I was expecting to come to this conference and introduce you to dozens of new LGBT leaders who'd swept into office with an historic wind at their backs. And I was planning to launch the next phase of our presidential appointments program, this time poised to build upon our work that led President Obama to appoint more LGBT people to positions in federal government than all other administrations combined. How's that for a legacy? And we were going to launch our campaign for our first LGBT cabinet secretary here today. Well, we didn't quite get the results we'd hoped for on Election Day. And instead, on November 8th, racism, homophobia, xenophobia, and sexism ultimately won the day. And to all our dismay, the Trump administration continues to double down on the divisive demagoguery of his campaign by appointing anti-equality advisors and cabinet members to serve in the White House. Leaders who are toxic for our community and our nation generally, and who have vowed to roll back the gains we have made over the past 8 years. So many in our community are afraid of what this new administration means for them. We see the rise in bigotry and hate and feel caught in its crosshairs. We fear that we're going to hear more stories like this one from Colorado, where a transgender woman named Amber had moved into a new neighborhood in Denver, thinking that it would be welcoming to her and a place to call home. 1 week after the election, she woke up, got ready for work, and stepped outside like any other day. But then she saw her car. Someone had taken black spray paint and covered it in death threats, transphobic slurs, and a swastika. Amber told the local news, quote, "Because of the Trump thing, it's all coming back. It's coming back hard." Now, Donald Trump can say he's pro-LGBT all he wants. Well, that is, if he can actually manage to put the letters together correctly. But as we speak, he is stoking hate and stocking his cabinet and senior staff with our community's most extreme opponents. Folks, it is coming back, and it's coming back hard. And make no mistake about it, this is not business as usual. The rhetoric and bad actors taking over our federal government are not the new normal. And we cannot sit idly by and placate them and let them win. I know that many of us still feel the hurt and disappointment and sting of election night. But I'm here to tell you that all hope is not lost. In fact, as I look around this room, I am reminded that our future ultimately looks mighty bright. This room, the largest gathering of LGBT elected and appointed officials ever, represents the inspiration, the resolve, and the grit to overcome the challenges that lie ahead. You see, LGBT leaders are the antidote to this extremism. You are the army of influence that we rely on to combat hate and to drive policies that safeguard all of our communities. You are the tour de force beating back disgraceful anti-LGBT bills and efforts to thwart voting rights and women's rights in state legislatures. You are the ones creating cities and communities that are welcoming to our transgender neighbors and our immigrant friends. You are the ones who have lived through gut-wrenching prejudice here and around the globe and have forged a way so that we can all see a brighter day. The power in this room is palpable. You feel that energy? Just being in this space with you, our LGBT leaders, gives us hope. And so I pledge to you today that Victory Institute will be a more robust resource for you. We'll facilitate a stronger network where you can connect with your colleagues and draw strength through community. We'll share best practices and keep you abreast of LGBT movement strategy and policy ideas to aid you in your work. And we will lift you up as the moral leaders that you are and amplify the amazing work that you're doing to drive the country forward and the world forward. Because you are the leaders that we have all been waiting for. And you will be the change that we so desperately need in this moment. Yesterday, during our elected official strategy session, I was reminded that our community is strongest when our backs are against the wall and when the wind is in our face. Folks, we survived the horror of the 1980s. Act up, even as our government failed to act, as so many of our friends perished around us. And we've come full circle from the 90s, when the federal government relegated us to second-class citizens through Don't Ask, Don't Tell and the Defense of Marriage Act. And we've prevailed since the 2004 slaughter at the polls, where voters in 11 states amended their constitutions to ban marriage equality. We've seen dark days, but in the end, we always thrive. And it's largely because of the passion and the courage and the drive of our LGBT elected and appointed officials. Some of you might remember when Victory brought a delegation of LGBT electeds from around the country to the White House. They met with President Clinton to demand that his administration engage the LGBT community and beef up funding to address the HIV/AIDS crisis. And he did. And many of you in this room rallied to get Roberta Achtenberg appointed as Assistant Secretary at HUD, which made her the first LGBT person to be confirmed by the US Senate for a federal position. Time and time again, you prove that when LGBT leaders flex their power, they open doors and break through lavender ceilings. There were only a few dozen out-elected officials back then, but today there are well over 500. Just think how powerful your voices would ring out if you band together to advance a common agenda. Now is the time to flex your collective power, because together you are an army of influence. You are a resilient caucus of resistance that won't be denied. Now, will we win every battle? Will it happen overnight? Will it be easy? Of course not. But we have been here before and we have prevailed. Our opponents may have won an election, but we are winning the electorate. Let us not forget that the majority of Americans share our values, and they are on our side. We continue to win hearts and minds. So now it's time for us to lick our wounds, because we can't let up. We have to stay fired up. You with me? Can't hear you. You with me? Good. Because our time has come. And to fully seize it, we must support our LGBT leaders all across this country and the world as they work to create an inclusive and just society for all of us. We must also encourage more LGBT people to run for office up and down the ballot, because we are still widely underrepresented across this country. And many of you in this room are the first or the only LGBT person to serve in your state. And by the way, the battle for LGBT rights will ultimately be fought and won at the state level. Just this year, we were up against more than 200 anti-LGBT bills across the country, measures that aim to denigrate and discriminate against us for simply daring to live, love, and labor out loud. And this was the backdrop of an administration that understands that we are Americans worthy of the same rights and responsibilities that our neighbors enjoy. Luckily, we beat many of those back, but our losses came in the states where we had few, if any, LGBT elected officials. States like North Carolina, where HB 2 was passed when there were no LGBT people serving in the state legislature to debate it. But North Carolina has also risen up as a beacon of hope. Voters in the state, the vast majority of which elected Donald Trump, simultaneously ousted the governor who championed the bill and signed discrimination into law. Yep. They sent a message loud and clear that bigotry is not a winning strategy. So friends, the wind is in our face, but we are powerful, and our army of influence is growing. In November, Oregon's Kate Brown became the first openly LGBT person elected governor in this country. Yes. Carlos Guillermo Smith became the first openly LGBT Latino elected to the Florida State Legislature, representing Orlando and many of the Latinx people who danced at Pulse nightclub that horrific night. And Daniel Hernandez, a gun violence survivor, also known for saving the life of Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, was elected to the Arizona State Legislature. And Georgia expanded LGBT representation in its state house, electing Sam Park to join 3 other openly LGBT voices. And when people spray-painted Amber's car in Denver, State Representative Leslie Herod was there. Just days before, Leslie had been elected the first Black LGBT state legislator in Colorado. And she immediately responded by holding a Civil Rights for All forum that saw historic turnout of community members from all walks of life. Because of elected officials like Leslie and all of you gathered here, transphobia and this type of despicable hate will not have the last word. Bigotry and discrimination will not have the last word in Denver or anywhere else across this country. And the persecution that we face around the world will not have the last word because of the courageous LGBT officials serving all across the globe. You know who will have the last word? You will. And how you use your voice today matters, guys. It matters. Because we are in for quite a ride with this new administration. But I have faith, as Dr. King did, that the arc of the moral universe, while long, always bends towards justice. If you believe that justice is just over the horizon, then let's join arms with our allies and work together more collaboratively than we ever have before. And if you believe that democracy matters, we need you to run for office and give your community the representation that it deserves. And if you know, like I do, that our time is now, then let's meet on the front lines today to fight for equality and justice for all, because we cannot just wait and see. Our lives depend on it. So let's roll up our sleeves and get to work, y'all. Onward to victory. Thank you.